Okay, this is a quick setup for our Learn How to Fly a Jet seminars. The jet that I'm going to use, and there are only two trainers available in the DCS world. One comes with the free download, which you will have found by now. It's the TF-51. That's a training variant of the World War II P-51 piston engine fighter. Most of the planes in DCS are jets, and I think the C-101 is going to be easier to fly than the P-51 because the C-101 was designed primarily to be a trainer, whereas the TF-51 was a trainer variant of a plane that was designed to be a fighter. So it's a little harder to fly. It's a lot less forgiving. It's a tail dragger, which means it doesn't have a nose wheel. It has a wheel in the back, so the nose sticks up in the air on the ground. Those are much, much harder to take off and land. So for that reason, and that reason alone, we're going to use the C-101. And there will be a link to where to download and buy that in the notes from this YouTube. Also, well, that'll be it. Probably a link back to the blog that drives all this stuff, and then a link to where to download this airplane. So what we want to do is set it up someplace predictable rather than try to find a mission that came with it or an instant action or any of that stuff that came with it. So we're going to use the Mission Editor, which is something you should learn how to use anyway. It's going to let you configure exactly the type of flights you want to have and not be beholden to trying to find somebody else that has built a mission for you that just happens to align with your wants and needs. So we're going to click on Mission Editor. Now this takes a long time to load up. I'm hoping that will get better as they take version 2 out of being an open beta into production, because it's based on version 1.5, and they've got that to where this map editor loads up quite quickly. So there's no sense sitting and watching this. I don't have enough gibberish in me to fill the time while it loads. There's just nothing to say, so I'm going to go ahead and pause it. So when we come back to you, it'll be a microsecond. To me, it'll be about 5 minutes. Okay, here we are with the Mission Editor fully loaded. Thank you for your patience, but to you there was none required, so you can thank me for my patience if you choose to. What we'll do, we're going to use the right mouse button and click to move this up a little bit, and then I'm going to put my cursor right over the airport. We're going to get out here in the middle of nowhere since we're just learning and don't want to be in the way of anybody. Your middle, the mouse wheel, if you roll the mouse wheel forward, it'll zoom in on this airport. And what we want to do is we're going to take an airplane. So we're going to click this little airplane. And in the list, the one we want is the C-101EB. The CC is the same airplane except with guns and missiles, and we'll probably do that as something of an advanced topic once we learn how. This is going to take a long time just to learn this. So that's kind of a goal. We'll get to that once we get through all of the mechanics of flying the airplane. So we're going to click on that. And now we need to tell it where we want to be, so we're going to click on the airport. Now this is a very, very important step, and I often forget this to my utter frustration, because when I get into the mission itself I can't get into the airplane because I have failed to tell it that I want to be the pilot of that airplane. Now we can put our own name in here should we choose to. It doesn't really matter. Let's just go with John Doe, just to have something in there. It's not important. And we don't want a turning point. What that would do is start us off in the air, and you may want to do that just to get a quick start. It's up to you. Probably crash pretty quickly and not really understand what you're doing, but you can do that. What we want to do is we want to either take off from parking hot, which means the engine will already be running, or take off from ramp, which means we need to start the engine. I think for the first, or maybe first and second lesson in the tutorial, the overall tutorial, we can skip the engine start because it's fairly complex. There's about 5 pages, actually it's closer to 9 pages of checklist items to get it all started up and test everything that you need to test before you fly it. I think we will start from takeoff from parking hot, and that'll put us in an airplane already up and running, and we can kind of go through some of the basics of just flying it. So let's click on that. Now that doesn't happen right away, that's just positioning it. These are all the different places you can choose to have it positioned. It's actually kind of nice. Oops, that was a mistake. So what I did is I actually accidentally added a waypoint, and that happened because this is the waypoint mode. This is how you plan your flights, and this is also how you plan flights for the AI aircraft. when you get to the point that you want to make your world a little more complex. For now, we don't want to do that, so we're going to delete that waypoint by putting it in delete mode. Oh, look at me just lying. Oh, there it went. It's gone now. And we're going to put ourselves in edit mode to avoid every time I click somewhere that it moves or it creates a flight plan. So it's nice, since we have to taxi to the runway, it's nice to be close to the runway. And because I'm not putting any wind, it doesn't matter which runway we use. So I'm going to move us to G01 or Golf 01 in Pilot Talk. And we do that. This PRK means parking. So we'll take that down and scroll down to there, G01. And that'll move the airplane. So when we start up, we'll just have this short little taxi to the runway, which will be convenient. And we're all about the convenience early on. So that's really all you need to do to configure yourself a mission or a flight the way you want it. We could adjust how much fuel is in the airplane, I think. This will be slow because it's a loaded screen. Right now it's got 84% internal fuel. That's plenty. That's all we need. And let's make it look like a trainer since we're doing training just for fun. That's how you change the appearance of the airplane. So that's done. There's something else back here, aircraft control priority. This airplane actually can have 2 players in it. You can both join into the same airplane and have one in front, one in back, as it would normally work in real life. We don't really need to do that, so we're not going to mess around with it. Now you can save the mission, if you want, if we're going to be using this a lot, which we are. You don't have to explicitly go and save it. It's going to ask you as soon as you say you want to fly it. So let's say we want to fly the mission. And do we want to save it? Yes, we do. And then we'll put that down where we'll be able to find it again. So it's down in the C101 Missions English. I believe that says training. So the last one I did was called testflight.mission. But this one is going to be called, why don't we just call it Learn to Fly a Jet. And this is lesson, let's call it lesson 1. We may use it over and over again, but that gives us a nice, easy to remember name. So that's saved. And now it's going to go ahead and load up. Now this also takes a little while. We can either sit through this or I can just go ahead and pause it. And I think I'll just go ahead and pause it for you. So it's finally loaded up. This is just kind of a summary of what it is we're going to do, which I've put very little in because it's an extremely simple mission. Basically, here's your weather report, which is not much going on. So to get into the airplane, we just hit fly. Now, if you're not looking at an instrument panel right now, if you're looking at the airplane from the outside, it means you forgot to set the pilot or the player as the pilot of the airplane, and you have to go back and do that. But we didn't forget to do that, so we're just on the fly button. So here we are. Airplane's all up and running. It's quite noisy. Now, this whole zooming around thing that's doing right now, this is because I'm wearing something called a Track IR, and I will put a link in the notes for this video back to the blog that will tell you how to obtain your own Track IR. And what it does for you is this. I'm turning my head right now. I'm wearing a little hat, and it has a little reflector on it, and as you turn your head, it allows you to track around and look at the airplane. Now it has a little gap in the middle. See a little pause in the middle? That's because I forgot to reset. I reset the settings so that it doesn't have that pause in the middle. The reason for that is to hold a little bit of stability so it's not constantly moving around. I prefer to just have a constant movement, so that's something you can determine on your own. Let's make sure all the controls are working. There's my rudders, and there's my stick, and then the throttle should move with the throttle. There's everything working. Okay, so Track IR, I really would call it a requirement. Otherwise, you're going to get a vision of you just like this. And that is no way to fly. You need peripheral vision. You need to be able to look out at things. So you're going to need a Track IR or something similar. Now this is a rear view mirror. I have it turned off because it saps a lot of power off of the computer. Let's slide that shut or out of the way so it's not blocking us. Alright, so this is our default state. This is where we're going to start, at least the early lessons. This is where we're going to start. So this is everything you need to know to get started with the tutorials. So I'm going to stop here, and then our next video will be the basically how to get the thing in the air and fly it around a little bit tutorial. So that's it for now. Hope you'll tune in for the next chapter.